Not all BMW E39s are created equal, and this one, like we have right here, is a very, very special BMW E39. First of all, it is the BMW 540, but instead of 286 horsepower, this one has been supercharged. So we have M5 power in this. We have 400 horsepower, and as you can see, the front end has been modified with proper M5 bits, so has the rear end. It's also the Touring, and how often do we see the Touring here in the United States? In addition to a 6-speed manual transmission, we have the gorgeous AC Schnitzer 18-inch wheels. Those brings me back to my childhood. I remember seeing them on a lot of 5 Series as a kid. They look still just fantastic. And we also have an Akrapovic exhaust, so this sounds so good. We're gonna look at this design from a front end, the side, the rear, the interior, and then I cannot wait to take this for a drive. Now, starting with the front end design of this very, very special E39 540 with the supercharging kit on this 400 horsepower. What I love about BMWs of this time is, if you look at the front face of this car, this is one of these cars. When I think about BMWs, the first car that pops up is going to be an E39 5 Series, because this to me is essential golden era BMW design. What do I mean by that? If you look at, for example, the kidneys here, they have a clear connection to what's going on in the top line of the headlights. Same goes for the lower section here, clear connection. We have a separation of the bumper, this being modified, having the M5 bumper in the front end, which I think obviously looks so much better than the normal 5 Series design. And it also has this face that I've said so many times before. It has a confidence to the face that says that this car will get you from point A to point B, no matter how far it is, no matter if you're going through blizzards or deserts. When you walk up to this car, it has this face that tells you that it will get you to where you want to go. Now, the more I look at this specific example of the E39, I think this is probably the coolest E39 I've ever seen, because what the owner has done here, I do believe this is Imola red, this color, and in addition to that, everything, all the small little graphic details are all blacked out. So black in combination with red always works really well. You can see the black accents here. The grille, no chrome in the grille either, is all blacked out. The trim around the windows, for example, also all blacked out. In addition to these gorgeous AC Schnitzer wheels that we're gonna have a look at in just a minute. It's just a unicorn 5 Series for me, specifically here in the States. I mean, I've lived here almost 13 years now, and I think I've seen maybe 1 or 2 5 Series Tourings in the country, and this is by far the coolest one. Now, what I love about Mercedes and BMWs and Audis of this era is just the simplicity of the design and the simplicity of the surfaces with some very clearly identifiable graphic features. And this is one of the most identifiable front faces of the E39 5 Series. For example, just have a look at this line, how simple this is. Just cuts through the hood and into the corner of the grille right there. What I think about BMWs today, and also a little bit when it comes to Mercedes, is I think designers are just putting more and more stuff onto their cars, which dilutes the identities of the cars and also makes them less emotional and more like products, like product design, like consumer electronics. This was a different era when it was all about emotion when it comes to design, and that is really what I miss about this era of car design. Now, coming on to the side view of the E39 540, and this of course being the special one with the 6-speed manual, we do have the AC Schnitzer wheels. These wheels actually brings me back to my childhood, because I remember a lot of 5 Series having these specific wheels onto their cars, and I still think they look fantastic today and totally suits this car as well. We have a staggered setup, 235s in the front, 265s in the rear end, and in addition to, again, this this red color with the black accents all around, we have the supercharged badge right here, red side mirrors as well, and the black graphics going around the greenhouse here. Beautifully done. And again, it just feels like a unicorn 5 Series, this one to me, specifically since it is the Touring. A couple of key graphic features that I've always loved about the E39 is, for example, the one key line that we have here being this shoulder line cutting all the way from the front end. And you can see right here how the front fender kind of melts it away because the fender sticks out so much, and then it comes back going all the way back. And this is what I love about this line. It cuts right into the taillight, so the metal of the bodywork here has a connection to what's going on graphically in the taillight, because it cuts right where the indicator light starts. So I like that the bodywork has a connection to the graphic features of the car. And in addition to that, we also have the greenhouse being a little taller than what they are in modern cars. The ratio between this height compared to the lower section, the greenhouse a little bit taller back in the day, and overall I think those proportions suit a touring better than just squishing the greenhouse too much like we have in a lot of modern cars. Now coming around to the rear end of the E39 Touring, and if I had a favorite view for this car, I know I usually say it's going to be the 3/4 rear view, but just look at this thing, how beautiful this is. The graphics, everything just works together nicely, and specifically when you put the M5 lower section on here, you can see that we do have the Akrapovic exhaust pipes here. Sounds absolutely fantastic, this car. We also have the beautiful taillights, the facelifted taillights, in addition to all these black graphics that we have going on. I also like that we have this spoiler up top because it sends the design off in a very nice, beautiful way. And overall, this is when BMW were the kings of plantedness when it comes to cars. This one is properly planted. I think Mercedes is slowly taking over that spot. But back when this was produced, I think BMW still had the best planted cars coming out from factory. Now, if you look at the graphics of the E39 5 Series, both the Touring and the sedan, I like that BMW in this case, at this time, had a clear connection to the rest of the lineup. So this essentially, when you zoom in on just a small little part, it's very hard to tell if this is a 5 Series, if it's an X5 or even a 3 Series of the time, because the identity was so strong back in the day, and that goes for this one as well. And just look at how planted this looks when you have the 265 millimeter wide tires with the absolutely stunning AC Schnitzer wheels on this. Now, the good news about having a Touring is that you're going to get a lot more trunk space than if you had the sedan, and that goes for this 5 Series E39 Touring as well. In this case, we do have a big subwoofer in there, so I do believe that the sound system of this is probably pretty nuts, but still, you get a decent amount of space in here. It looks very clean. This one, I think, has done about 80,000 miles. It looks brand new, especially back here. So let's close this back up and let's talk a little bit more about what's going on in the interior. Now let's check out the interior of this 540. This is a 2000 model. Love the design. I've talked about the E39 design when we reviewed the M5 and the 530 before. And when you jump in here, this is clearly a BMW. I mean, there's no mistaking this for anything else. And what I love about this specific one is that the owner has put in a sort of a modern little screen here, so you have reverse backup camera. I'm sorry if it's a little loud in here because the car is on, and it just makes it a little bit more easy to live with day by day. If there's one thing I would change about this specific 540 Touring is the spec for the interior. I prefer to have the black interior with the silver trim here instead of this beige with the wood grain. This feels less sporty, and since we have such a sporty exterior on this car, I want to bring that into the interior as well. But we do have the M5 steering wheel here. Love the vents here up here because they have a nice flow to the overall design of the dash. Further down, we do have this new feature, modern feature with the screen and the backup camera. You also have a wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto for this one. Down here, typical BMW E39 and BMW from this era, you have all these buttons for the climate control settings. Everything works, all the pixels work in this area here. You have where you want the air to blow out from. You have the fan speed as well. There is single climate zone in this car, which is totally fine. You have two cup holders here. There's also a cigarette outlet that pops up right there, but this is the big thing about this 540 here. We have the 6-speed manual transmission, and this one, I just drove the SLK. This one feels very tight. This feels like a proper BMW gearbox. This is what I want to have. Short shifts, very tight and easy to figure out what gear you're in. You have the hazards here and a good old e-brake, in addition to some small little ashtray here in the middle, some more storage here, and you have this center armrest, which I do believe in European models you can actually open this up, but not for the US model, so I'm not entirely sure why that is. Looking at the seats here, beautiful, comfy, very soft cushioned seats. Not the sportiest seats I've ever seen, but they still have proper bolstering to them. It's gonna hold you in place when you go for a drive in this. I'm not sure for the 540 standard one, yes, it's gonna hold you in place, but for this supercharged 400 horsepower, I guess we're gonna find out. Moving on to the steering wheel here, typical BMW steering wheel for this era. This one, it looks to be the M5 steering wheel or the facelifted 5 Series. We have the controls for the volume and the radio and the voice commands here, and you have the cruise control settings on the right side. I've always loved this design of the steering wheel because we have this round shape instead of the 4-spoke. I do believe it was 4-spoke before this. This just looks so much more sporty and just nicer. The gauge cluster is looking fantastic as well. Not the M5 cluster. This looks to be the 540 cluster because it's black on white instead of white on sort of gray. And listen to this, a Krapovic exhaust, how good it sounds. It just sounds absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to take this for a drive. Now looking at the door panel here, typical again E39 door panel. I love the quality of everything in here. Everything just feels tight. Even the toggle for the headlights up front just feels sturdy and feels brand new. You have the fog lights here as well. Looking up top, we do have a sunroof for this specific 540 Touring. And last but not least, we do have a glove box in this car. Now, coming around to the back seat here, and the thing about the 5 Series is that it's grown so much lately. This feels more probably the same size as a current 3 Series Touring, I would say. But I still have plenty of space back here. There's no big deal. This is behind my own driving position. We do have a couple of vents down here, and if we fold down the center armrest, you don't have any cup holders. Instead, you just have a big cushy armrest right here in the middle. You also have these like curtains. If you want to have some shade, you just pull these up. Very nicely done. All right, let's take this very, very special car for a drive. The thing about this though, I can't give you any numbers because I don't know. It's got 400 horsepower in a supercharged V8. That's all I know. 0 to 60, I have no idea. But listen to that noise. Oh, it's such a raw, old school power in this car. And this also has the same feel like we have for pretty much every BMW that I've said every time I review cars like this. Has its solid feel to it, this solid BMW-ness to it. It sounds a lot louder than the E39 M5 that I reviewed maybe a year ago or so. This has a much more raw feel to it. And what I love about this more than I love the M5 is that this is a 540, but it's the touring version, so you still have, you know, all the space and the wagon-like design for this, and I think that makes it cooler than the regular M5. Let's check the turning radius on an E39 540 BMW, pretty good. And let's go through the gears. Oh yeah. Oh, it's such a fun car to drive. And the thing is, when you know it looks this good, it just makes it more enjoyable to drive. When you know that car people around you appreciate this car for what it is, just makes it even more special. I love the Krapovic exhaust. It sounds really, really good. So let's do a pull one more time here. What a machine. Oh, this is what I miss about driving, this raw analog feel that you don't really get anymore in modern cars. And I think 400 horsepower for this type of package is just the right amount of power. You still have that V8 grunt, but it's not crazy powerful. You're not scared to floor it, if that makes sense. I really don't know what else to say. I'm just enjoying driving this car. I love this car. I love everything about this car. I love the styling, I love the red, the supercharged power, the Schnitzer wheels. I mean, to me, this is probably the most perfect E39 5 Series I have ever reviewed. Another thing I love about this era of cars in general, just older cars, is you feel the body rolls in the corners, you feel the car moving around, the weight, you feel like you're actually driving something and not like, new cars almost feels like a simulations in some ways. And this just still has that old analog school that I love about this type of era of cars. As always, big thanks to European Auto House again for providing this absolute beauty for me to review for you guys today. Think about whenever I come here, I have a couple of cars that I want to review. Like we plan to review a couple of cars, and then every time I come here, someone that works here always pulls up with some insanely cool Beamer or Mercedes or Audi, and of course I need to review those cars too. And that was one of these cars, was one of those cars. He just pulled up with this car. I said, could I review your BMW over there? And they said, sure, fine. So they're really cool guys. And if you're interested in models like this, the golden era, as I called it, the Mercedes BMW, just go and check out EuropeanAutoHouseCO.com. Gonna link it down in the description. I'm not sure if this one is actually for sale. It probably is for the right price. I think everything is for sale for the right price, but go check them out. Link down below. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.